So, Doc, I would have you speak for us on
Okay.
balance test and all. Thanks, Doc.
Okay. This is the standard presentation that I do for balance test and the dry blood spot test. For those of you who are new, this might sound a little different. As I go through the slides, I'm going to give a lot of details in what I speak. I leave the slides very simple so that the points are taken and remembered. Okay, let's start with some basic concepts. Now, if you look at basic health ingredients, no matter what supplement you're taking, the most important to take care would be the oxygen inhalation, the water consumption, the diet that you consume, and the lifestyle you pursue. There's no supplement that is more effective than all of this. Let's be very clear on that. If you can get the best of it out of all this, whatever else you take, supplements, further modification in your diet, the benefits will be very obvious. Oxygen, there's only 20.8% in the air. We breathe in oxygen, and when we breathe out, we actually breathe out 16% of the oxygen that we inhale. So that leaves behind just under 5%. A little deeper breathing will give us that useful part of the extra oxygen. Remember that more than 90% of the chemical or biochemical reactions in the body need oxygen. Your body will thank you very much. All that biochemistry takes place in the medium of a liquid environment, and therefore water is extremely necessary. Make sure you drink adequate amounts of clean water for your health. Of course, there's been a debate about how much you should drink. I have a simple rule of thumb. Look at the urine that you're passing out. If it begins to turn a little yellow or light yellow, you need to top up. If possible, try to maintain clear urine at all times. I leave it at that because it can vary per person, per day, on the same person at different times. If you're working in an air-conditioned room, you require less water. If you are working out in the sunlight, doing physical activity, consumption has to be more. The best regulator is your kidney. Keep an eye on the color of the urine that you pass out. Diet, simple rules to follow. Eat a varied diet on foods that grow near your place. Whatever grows in that soil is most appropriate for you. It doesn't mean that you can't eat food from overseas, but the basic should be that. And make sure that the diet is within the budget that you can afford. That is what you'd be comfortable with and you can follow long term. Lifestyle will include your hobbies, your relationships, your work ethics, sleep, physical activity, and so on. All of this is entirely under your control, and you probably need someone else to advise you on that if you have any shortcomings in that area. Today, we are going to focus a little bit on the diet and further narrow it down. But let's look at the diet first. Pretty much around the world, it's the same pattern. It may vary from country to country, continent to continent, but there is some grains in the diet. Then, of course, we eat the vegetables and fruits grown in season in your area. Most people around the world consume either some animal parts or animal produce like milk or eggs. And of course, the last one is the most important. There have been special preparations seasonally, weekly, monthly, or even according to what challenges we face in our physical ability. For example, after delivery, there are certain preparations made. These are actually supplements. These supplements have been consumed throughout history by all ethnic groups. Today's supplements are supported by better preparations in the sense that it comes in pills, tablets, sprays, and gels, and so on. But those days, they had either soups or broth or something that's boiled for a long time. They are both the same. supplements. Supplements have been part of our eating habits, lifestyle, and so on. Okay. Now, from all that, what we obtain nutrients for the body to keep it healthy, we need certain nutrients in very large amounts. We call them macronutrients. These not only are required in large amounts, but eating them also gives you a sense of fullness and satiety. Remember, eating is a pleasant experience, but it is never complete without feeling full and that you have eaten something enjoyable. Those are macronutrients. There are nutrients that we require in very small amounts, some of them just milligrams and even micrograms. We are in a position to measure right up to nanograms. That may include all that I've listed here and some that are yet to be discovered. We know there are some other things that exist, but either cannot be isolated and they are not stable long enough to be able to analyze. This part is best obtained from natural food. That's why I put an emphasis on a natural diet, and supplement is only to add on to that effect. And let's look further. I'm going to focus a little bit on fats today. Now, fats, as you know, there are several types of fats. And this is where the biochemists come in. They classify fats for the purpose of understanding how they work. Structurally, they are basically carbon atoms, a long chain of carbon atoms. They can be short chain, medium chain, long chain, and the biochemists have a way of classifying it according to the number of carbon atoms. Every carbon atom has got 4 arms stretched out. If all the 4 arms are attached to something else, it could be a hydrogen, it could be a hydroxyl, then it is considered saturated or that carbon atom is satisfied. So if all the carbon atoms in that fat or the chain in that fat is fully saturated, we get saturated fats. When that happens, that molecule is pretty straight and the packing of the molecules is quite tight. Therefore, saturated fats feel a bit viscous, thick. When all the carbon atoms are not completely satisfied with some attachment, they are unsaturated fats. Usually, the origin of these fats are found in vegetable and seed oils. We need this fat, both saturated and unsaturated, for our health. Unsaturated fat, the carbon chain, one or more of the carbon atom may not have 4 attachments to it. So if it has 3, one of the arm has to combine with something else, and that is called double bond. And usually when you have a double bond, that molecule is not straight, it kinks in that area. So when molecules that are kinked are accumulated, the collection is a bit loose. So unsaturated fats, when you feel it with your fingers, feels a little thinner or less viscous. They go on to classify it into monounsaturated, which means there's one double bond. Poly means more double bonds. There was a lot of interest about trans fats. When we cook or commercially prepare foods, many of these good fats here can be translated to another kind of trans fats, which they later found out to be harmful and causes more inflammation in the body. Most countries have now banned trans fats from any preparation that is being sold, packed foods and so on. That is not the last word on trans fats. There is a small amount of trans fats, what fats can be classified as trans fats, in nature, particularly in meat. And they thought initially that there is some benefit to it. It has not been conclusively decided, so it is still in limbo. The jury is still out on that. Another bit of information is we eat all kinds of fat. Mind you, every food has got some fat. Even rice, extremely small amount. The one that is the most would be like avocado on the vegetable side, meat on the animal produce, and so on. Fats, we take in all kinds of fat. Fats are broken down to their basic, called fatty acids, gets absorbed into the system and resynthesized according to the fats that our body needs. If you don't take any fat, then the body has a way of synthesizing that by converting some conversion from the carbohydrates that we eat and even the protein. If you don't take any fat in the diet, probably you're not getting carbohydrates or proteins. You're either starving or you're taking commercially prepared food. Many fats can be synthesized by the body, but there are two fats that are essential to the body that cannot be synthesized. In other words, they need to be consumed specifically. These two fats are extremely important in the body. We don't synthesize it, and therefore you must get it from the diet. What are these fatty acids called? Again, omega-3, omega-6. Now, we call it essential because we don't produce it. We have to consume it in the diet. Not only did they find that these fats are important for consumption, it preferably has to be in a ratio to really obtain the best healthy outcome. They find that we need the omega-3 to 6 to be 1 part to omega-3, 3 parts to omega-6. This is the average. Some authorities go as low as 1 to 1. Some are a little bit more liberal. They say 1:5 is fine. But ZZN would prefer to take the middle road. We say 1:3. Now, what happens if this goes out of whack? Now, in nature, we find, or rather in the human body, that the imbalance is always in favor of omega-6, which is needed by the body. But when it is too much in proportion to omega-3, there is increased inflammation in the body. This is a very tricky subject. This has been known by, traditional practitioners even before. The traditional Chinese medicine describes it as heatiness. We thought, temperature of the body doesn't change very much. What heatiness and cool and all that. Actually, they were using the word heaty. What it actually means is inflammation. This has come to the attention of modern medicine over the last 20 years. And over the last 5 years, there is much more. They find that if you have inflammation in the body, more than what it should be, it can cause quite a bit of damage. It by itself doesn't cause any disease. That inflammatory process by itself, when in excess, can lay the groundwork, you can say, changes in the tissues for disease to set in. The disease can be anything from infection, infestation, degenerative disease, right up to cancer. So it doesn't cause these diseases, but it sets up the soil for other diseases to grow. Now, where is this most important, omega-3 and 6? The number of cells in the body is estimated. This estimate varies every 5 or 10 years. Currently, it stands somewhere between 80 to 86 trillion. 2 or 3 trillion is already beyond comprehension. So, in other words, the body has a lot of cells. Every cell has a cell membrane which maintains the integrity of the cell. It can be square, it can be oblong, no shape, long. Surprisingly, there are very few cells that are round, which is the diagram that we normally see. Every cell has a membrane. That membrane is very important. No matter how healthy the cell is, if you rupture the membrane, the cell dies. The cell membrane has to be tough to prevent that. It must also be in good health because it performs many other functions. It allows nutrition that's supposed to come in, oxygen, vitamins, proteins, or other amino acids, so on and so forth, including oxygen, to come into the cell. And it must allow waste matter to leave without complication. Okay? So all this is regulated by every one of those 80 trillion cells, and most of the control is by the cell membrane. Not only entry and exit, we are living in a crowded environment. The cell must be flexible to accommodate. It must be fluid or flexible. When we move around, different cells come knock into each other, but it must not break. It must maintain the integrity and the shape and all the functions. Some of the functions, to let you know how important it is, we have what is called cell-to-cell transmitting of signals. For example, if there is a small incision in the skin and there is a gap, you have a wound. Now, the cells at the edge of the wound provide signals to start multiplying till the two ends meet. The two separated ends must meet. Once they meet, this signaling says stop production, and it stops. If it stops a little late, you get a big scar. If it stops a bit longer, you get a bad scar, a keloid. If it doesn't stop at all, then that may be a cancerous process. So the cell-to-cell connection functions are extremely important. If all cells are important, cells go to make up the tissues, organs, and system in the human body, and you can see the far-reaching effects of a poor quality cell membrane. Just a small diagram of part of a cell membrane. 50% of that is fat, 50% is protein. These two layers can interweave as they go along around the cell. And their entry points, you see the different shapes, and they can move around. This entry point can shift. So the cell is a very complex organism by itself. Now, if we look at our modern diet, it has changed over the last 100 years. 100 years ago, people used to cook with animal fat. We used a little bit of that animal fat necessary for human health, and that was it. But we also discovered that we can get oils from seeds and vegetables. They tend to last longer, and with a little bit of treatment, the chemical industry had developed to an extent where they could do many things. So we could actually treat these oils and have them in our kitchen for long periods. All of us have switched to unsaturated oils, which are mainly from vegetables and seeds. These contain high amounts of omega-6. So we have now an essential amino acid omega-6 in abundance in our diet. On the other hand, the omega-3, which should keep up proportionally to the 6, has dropped because of the diet of many of our domestic animals, even the fish in the sea or the rivers, more in tropical countries like ours, have very little fat. When it comes to seas that are cold in the northern area or extreme south, Scandinavian seas, now they worry about pollution in the seas. And therefore, not only supply has come down, it may have been tainted with toxic heavy metals and other chemicals that are harmful. In other words, our diet now has increased omega-6 intake and decreased omega-3, further upsetting the delicate balance between the two. This contributes to inflammation. This is not the only contributing factor, but this imbalance also contributes to inflammation throughout the body. One of the areas that gets hit hard is the inner lining of blood vessels. Since blood vessels reach all organs will get a secondary effect of that. We have no choice but to take supplements to make sure our omega-3 supply is good. Meanwhile, it is also useful to remember to reduce omega-6 consumption because we are overdoing it. Okay. So minimize the oil in your cooking and increase omega-3 intake. The only option seems to be to have supplements. The moment we talk about supplements, many questions come to our mind. If you want to make a choice, you have to look into all this. The active ingredient in omega-3 is the EPA and DHA. We need adequate amounts of that. Both combined, there should be a minimum of 500 to 700 milligrams per day. That is an estimated average because some people are more active, teenagers are growing, they require more. Somehow, that amount is quite high in people who live in cold countries. They recommend anything from 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams. I noticed that over here, about 700 is good enough in a warm environment. Now, we can decide on the product. We checked out the companies and the servings that we want. Finally, does it work? Some hints on what it should be. Now, before going to the third point, I would like to tell you a little bit of omega-3 history. Initially, it was found that those who lived in cold areas like Iceland and Greenland enjoyed, well, not ideal, but superior cardiovascular health. They had other medical problems. It was decided it is the omega-3 because their diet was mainly fatty fish, seal blubber, which contained a high amount of omega-3. And so these were commercially harvested and marketed in Western Europe. After about 15 to 20 years, statistical surveys showed that there was hardly any difference between the population that took it and the population that didn't take it with regards to cardiovascular health. And this took them back to the drawing boards to verify whether the people living in cold countries do benefit from omega-3. And they found that they do. So what was the difference? That was the time when they discovered that fish oil or any polyunsaturated fat in nature is always accompanied by an antioxidant group that supports the preservation of that oil, the absorption of the oil when somebody consumes it, and also the utilization of that oil by the cell. This was a huge problem because when we get this oil from the fish, it is not actually produced by fish. We call it fish oil because commercially that is the most viable source of extracting omega-3. It's produced by the algae in deep seas. And along with that exists an antioxidant called fluorotannin. So when we extract it from the fish, it goes through commercial refining. You have to show certificates of the oil being cleansed of heavy toxic metals, chemicals, and so on before you can market them. The oil that comes into the market finally has only EPA, DHA, no antioxidant. Companies started adding tocopherol, that is vitamin E families, known to be an antioxidant. Some used zeaxanthin, astaxanthin, a more complex form of antioxidant. And they thought that will help. But it didn't help very much till they found out that the group of antioxidants that seem to closely resemble the fluorotannin is the polyphenol group. Polyphenols are found quite in large amounts in olives, and so they started using it. Now, has it improved? Not according to the test that ZZN has done. Not only do you need to mix polyphenols with the omega-3, it has to be done in a particular way. Now, this is the process that ZZN uses. There are many patents pending on this. At the moment, let's call it a proprietary blend. This was developed by a group of scientists about 15 years ago, tested very often. What do you mean tested? Now, we are going to talk a lot about the test, but along with the development in the nutritional industry, laboratory industry also has made giant strides. Now you can check things that it was never thought possible, not only from the blood, but from your red blood cell and so on. We'll talk a little bit about that later. If you are looking for a product of this nature, which is appropriate, can be consumed and tested, and has been in the market for almost 20 years. The lab that tests is an independent lab in Norway called Vitas. They have the largest bank of omega-3 tests in the world. Other labs do it, but they have the largest number. They have done just from ZZN alone 1.7 million tests. And I'm sure they do this test for others also. And they find that when they are given this product, within 120 days, the levels in the blood, in the red blood cell membrane, reaches the appropriate 1.3. Okay. So ZZN balance oil, which is actually a mixed fish oil. What do we mix? We mix a fair number of things. Vitamin D is also an oily preparation. So there is vitamin D in our product. We recommend 2 servings. Forget the numbers here. I would say this is half tablespoon and this is 3/4 tablespoon. In our country, tablespoon is the most reliable measurement because the size remains pretty standard. Teaspoons vary too much. So the recommended serving is half tablespoon, 3/4 tablespoon. And these are the values you get for EPA, DHA. If you add EPA, DHA, even with the small serving, we're looking at about 1,229. That's a very generous dose of EPA, DHA. Along with that, you get 500 international units of vitamin D3. In nature, we have vitamin D, D1, D2. D3 is the one that is used by the body. At the higher serving, it goes up to 800. The polyphenols that I talked about, the amount is mentioned here. How it is incorporated into the oil, as I mentioned earlier, is a proprietary thing, okay? Now, polyphenols are extracted from omega-9, which is, well, the greatest source of omega-9 is extra virgin olive oil. And ZZN has been checking out the olive oil industry in the Mediterranean area. Now we find that there is a family farm in Cyprus who grow their olive under very natural conditions. Not only that, they extract the oil by traditional methods. The polyphenol content, the antioxidant group content is almost double than any other place. And that is what ZZN uses exclusively now. That is the preparation. And a few words about the test before I go on to the actual figures that you see. The dry blood spot test. There is a blotting paper. You put in 2 drops of blood with the finger prick. It absorbs the serum or the liquid part and leaves the red blood cell. and you've got to wait about 10 minutes. What sample you have is a dry blood spot. Now, this is much easier to send to Norway. It is not tested anywhere else except in Norway in that lab. And you can put it into the envelope that is supplied. Partners are lucky. You just give it to the company. The company will arrange the postal services to send this. When you submit this, you also give your personal email so that the results come directly to you. I believe now there are so many tests coming in from all over the world. By the way, ZZN has a presence. It is from Sweden, very popular in the Scandinavian countries, has a presence in the whole of Europe, companies listed in the stock exchange there. We have a large presence in North America, Mexico, South Africa, Middle East, particularly Turkey, South Asia, India, Southeast Asia, and now the company is looking into East Asia. We get samples from all over the world, and I think it is taking up a little bit of a time. Very sensitive equipment like this have to be serviced very often, double checked for accuracy and so on. So the test results may take a little longer than expected. Please be patient. We have one of the most accurate testing in the world. Not only that, when I show you the report, we give you much more information than the numbers only. We'll come to that. Okay, this is a little clearer. The kit comes like this. And okay. Now, when the reports come in, you get pretty detailed report. It can be broadly divided into two parts. The first part is a qualitative assessment. The second part gives you exact figures, and that is a quantitative result. So let me start with the qualitative. The most important is the balance between omega-6 and 3, and that particular label is the largest you get. We utilize 3 different colors: red, yellow or orange, and green, which you don't see here. Red is bad, completely out of balance. Yellow is inadequate. You're not in the danger zone, but it is inadequate. Green, you're fine. And you will see the color as we go along. Now, in this particular patient, you can see the imbalance here. Omega-6 to omega-3. In Malaysia, we find the average is around 22. Of course, there are extremes. I've seen one patient with 100 to 1. And then we have this qualitative analysis. Just to give you an example, here it says protection value. In this particular person, it's 0. Protection here means judging your immune system, what level it is working at. Now, in this patient, he might get a little scared, saying, oh my God, I don't have any protection at all. I'm open to anything and everything. That's not true. You see, for your immune system to function optionally, you need adequate amount of sleep, enough protein in your diet. There are certain vitamins and minerals. You may be getting that. What it means here is the protection you're getting from omega-3 is 0. Omega-3 contributes to the immune system. That contribution is 0. Okay? And then if you come down here, cell membrane fluidity. I talked about the flexibility of the cell membrane. That is important. If you have rigidity in your cells, that is one of the signs of aging. Okay? We are going to age. We are going to get stiffer. But this test shows that cell membrane fluidity, the contribution to that by omega-3 is insufficient. Not because of other things. You may be taking too much saturated fat, which makes the cell membrane stiff also. So that will not show up here. We are talking about omega-3. Okay? Mental strength. Again, mental strength, many factors go into it. One, your genetic makeup. Some people are born with a mental toughness which is unbelievable. They keep going no matter what. Number two, the skills that you have acquired will make your mental strength great. All this has to act through the brain cells. The omega-3 contribution to your brain cells structure, particularly the DHA, is lacking. You could see this result even in the CEO of a company. You can't be telling him, hey, you have poor mental strength. No, he's doing better than me and you. So the contribution by omega-3, if you're mentally strong, with this, you're going to be even better. Are you going to get smarter? Not really. Being smart or intelligent requires many other things. Let me explain this. Index. If you look, those of you who receive the results, you want to know exactly how it is calculated, just click on that. It goes to the next page to explain in detail with all the figures. What I'm going to tell you is a very simplified form. Omega-3 index may be normal here, but out here, let us assume that you have 300 milligrams of omega-3 and 900 milligrams of omega-6 in the test result. Now that would be 3:1. Your ratio is good. No, your ratio is good. Your amount is inadequate. This index will give you some idea of whether you're getting enough amounts before you come to the ratio. Now, in omega-6, the part that produces the most inflammation in the body is arachidonic acid. Inflammation is extremely important for the body. It is that process that initiates or mounts an action against any foreign substance, whether biological, like bacteria, virus, fungus, and so on, or chemicals and inorganic substances that come into the body. It is inflammation that motivates, prepares the body to fight it, neutralize it, and eliminate it. We need inflammation. But when inflammation gets too much, and in modern times, we have too many things coming into the body has to produce excessive amounts of inflammation. Then they go on to damage our own cells and tissues. This is where you need something to hold it back. That is performed by omega-3. And that's why we need this particular ratio to keep the inflammation within healthy limits. But the one that mounts inflammation in the first place is this particular part of omega-6. In other words, we need this, but not too much of that. Now, for many people, they would rather have a diagrammatic representation. Can you see the bars, or is it blocking? Thanks, Mikael. Here, you can see all the indices we talked about are put in a bar. Now, this is a result of another person who seems to be doing quite well. All the indices, the arrow shows is in green, which means adequate. When you have an arrow like that, it's very useful because, for example, the arrow shows here for omega-6-3 balance, but for protection value, it shows here. Both are in the red, but this is worse off than that. So it gives you a fairly good representation. Now, this color bar diagrams are also useful, okay? Now, you will notice that the last bar, arachidonic acid, is red on both sides. Too much of it gives more inflammation than necessary. Too little of it, not enough inflammation. We need that, not too much, and therefore you have to be right in the center. This bar diagram is another useful tool to quickly get an overview of where you stand. Now, there are those who want exact numbers. When you have exact numbers, this is the picture you get. If you see here, saturated fat, two types. Monounsaturated omega-9, one type. Omega-6, family of 4, same for omega-3. You get results of 11 different types of fats from the red blood cell membrane. When we check the red blood cell membrane, you can be quite assured that that represents cell membrane makeup of most cells. Red blood cell is the one that contacts or goes down to reach every cell in the body every minute. Our blood volume is about 5 to 5.5 liters. It circulates throughout the body every minute, and the red blood cell carries oxygen and many other things which has an exchange at the cellular level. So we can't be checking all the 200 plus different types of cells, but we can check the red blood cell membrane with minimal discomfort. That's a good representation of what's going on around the body. This is the actual reading for those who want numbers. The first column is where you should be. Second column is where you are. And the third column gives you the difference between the two, whether it's in excess or deficient will have a minus there. Okay, so the difference in percentage in either excess, where they don't give the positive value, but no sign shown. When it is down, the minus value will be there. The body is a dynamic organism. It is not a machine, and it will not be at the ideal level and be stationary there. There will be slight variation. 5% this way or that way is nothing to worry about. Okay? If it's 10% in either direction, you may need to look at the diet that you're taking. Okay? Since you're taking balanced oil, the serving that is recommended, that may not be the problem. You may need to look at the diet. Now, we may not pay attention because once in a while we go out celebrating. We may indulge in something which can upset the regular balance. But not to worry, it will get in place. Okay? So this is for those who have numbers. We recommend that you do the first blood test before you take the product. Now, some people might say, hey, I have been taking fish oil before. Even more reason, because you want to know how well it's working for you. If it is working for you, you are in 3-in-1, you're taking a product that gives that value, you don't need any change. You just continue with what you are doing. If it is not, then you may want to consider balanced oil. In the last 4 years in Malaysia, from the information that I can gather, there's only one person I came across taking another product, another brand, and having a 3:1, which is good. We told him you don't have to change. Okay, so you check your blood, you take the product, 120 days. Why? That's the time you need for all the red blood cells in the body to renew. Okay? Very few Malaysians have that patience. They usually check their blood in 2 months' time. They want to know whether it's working or not. 3 months, by now, most of it should be done. I need to know where I stand, which is fine. This is how it will show when you do the second test. First test results, it'll be a summary, okay? Second test results for comparison, where you stand, okay? Like this person, I think, has done it 120 days later and shows very dramatic difference, okay? So first blood test, this would be second and subsequent blood test. Of course, they'll add test 3 or 4 or whichever is needed. Now, how often do you go on doing the test? Once you hit your balance, you don't need to do it every 3 or 4 months. You can do it 6 months later, 1 year later, just to see where you are. Now, balance oil has proven its effectiveness, and I can say first-hand report from this market for sure. From the information I gather from the lab, they have done well. And the numbers they provide is 95% successful. That's very good even for that's too good even for a drug. But this is a supplement, by the way. Just lab has taken the trouble to call up people who did not achieve that ratio to find out whether there could be something they could improve on. They find that most of them, they are very frank and they tell them, I've not been taking it regularly. I've been traveling. Then they encourage them to take it regularly for a while to achieve the levels. So very well a tested product, and you may want to check this out with your own tests. You can find out whether it's working for you. Now, I'm going to stop here. I think I've been talking a lot. There's a lot that you may want to clarify or expand on. I will try and do what I can. Mikael mentioned that I'm a member of the Scientific Advisory Board. I'm the only non-scientist who's a member. The rest are all scientists, all on the Western side. I'm the only rep from here. As a practicing medical doctor, I was allowed to be part of that group so that I can give some comments and tell them how we respond to these things in this part of the world. Thanks, Mikael, for the arrangement.
Yes, thanks, Doc. Thanks. That, of course, there in just 1 hour, really short time, a lot of information to cover. But I think Doc has given us a great brief. Could you please stop sharing before I could probably open up?
Yes.
See if there are probably 1 or 2 questions from the audience. All right, thanks, Doc. Feel free to stick around as I got to share a bit about the ZZN business, especially in Malaysia. We're looking especially for Malaysia. I've written 1 or 2 simple websites, which, I mean, if you need to use this website for reference, not for advertisement or marketing purposes. So if you need to use, ping me. If you have my number, ping me. I would like to share with you this. So a few things I have summarized regarding ZZN, especially in Malaysia, is that I see big potential for any of us who would like to consider ZZN or the Omega market as a potential business playing field. I would say ZZN, we have a couple of absolute advantage, especially in Malaysia. Number one is that all these I learned from medical professionals like Dr. Abraham, the silent crisis, the demand for chronic inflammation solution is really high. People may not understand it right now, but once we get them tested, they will understand because we have the numbers. We have the numbers to back up what we talk about because in Malaysia, there are a lot of chronic diseases directly or indirectly related to chronic inflammation. For example, we are looking at top 10 killers in Malaysia, heart diseases, stroke, diabetes, and other forms of cancer. We know that it can directly or indirectly relate to chronic inflammation. Rather than having them only go on drugs, we could possibly help them handle the issue from the root cause, which is to reduce the chronic inflammation happening in Malaysians. So in Malaysia, more than 2 million Malaysian adults live with all 3 highs: diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. With the modern food, just like what doctor was saying, modern food preparation methods really gives us a lot of omega-6, too much in fact. As a city boy myself, I am not used to taking a lot of fish every single day. And I believe many Malaysians share the same experience as well. How often do we eat really deep sea fish to get enough omega-3? Actually, too little. Now, the ZZN tool that is really playing to our advantage, I would say, would be the balance test. For Asians, especially for Malaysians who have gotten tested with the balance test that is offering, we find that 98% of us will fail our first test, which means that 98% of people will have omega-6 to 3 balance of more than 3 when they did their first test. And like Doc was saying, the average ratio for people who have done the first test with ZZN is 22 to 1. It used to be a couple of days ago when I checked on the website, it was 22.1 to 1. Now we've gotten to 22 to 1. But yet, this is still very dangerous. Now, granted, this is an average ratio. That means some people have lower and some people have way higher average ratio for omega-6 to 3. And there's another interesting number I want to share with you is that average people who have done the second or third test, average people would have had their ratio came down to 3.5 to 1. And this is the number for Malaysia. So with all these numbers backing what we are talking about, gives us a lot more confidence that when our clients or patients go and do the test and then go on the balanced oil for 4 months, for 8 months, we are sure it will improve their inflammation level. Now, the solution is taking a balanced oil, and of course, we do another test. We do even the third or fourth test. Every 4 months, we want to move from a gas-based nutrition industry to a test-based nutrition, in which everything that we do has numbers that we can trust to show that these things really work with our body. Granted, your body, my body is different. So let's be personal with our test and what kind of nutrition we take. Number 3, the weapon we have in our hand is the balanced oil. Dr. Abraham is talking about the advantage and benefits of taking a balanced oil. We talk about having the early harvest olive oil polyphenols from Cyprus in order to protect the freshness of DHA and EPA. Per serving, we are, if not the highest in the market. I've done some simple comparisons with even DHA and EPA supplements from pharmacies or other companies. We are one of the most generous in terms of offering EPA and DHA. So it is consumer friendly. Don't have to like swallow pills or swallow, huge soft gels. It's in liquid form. So we can also incorporate this balanced oil into your daily diet, into your food as well. So in your salad, in your day-to-day food, just pour a bit of balanced oil into your food as itself. It is really easy. And then, for example, my kid has a hard time swallowing big pills. So this would be a perfect solution. And for the vegan community now in Malaysia, we have a huge vegan community. For people who has vegan diets, it is really hard for them to have enough EPA and DHA from their normal diet. So we offer another solution for them. We have the vegan version of the balanced oil. Now, for Malaysia, we've been around in Malaysia. ZZN has been in Malaysia for almost 4 years. Now, why Malaysia and why now? Why ZZN now has a big potential? As of today, this is a live number you can see on the website. As of today, Malaysia, we have successfully tested 8,519 individual customers. Now, these are numbers that we can see on the Vitas and ZZN Co-op website. It's called zinzinotest.com. What's happening is, for me, as I lead this company in Malaysia, I would say that for the last 4 years, we have started, but we are not doing good enough. So a number of 8,000 plus, almost 9,000 tests is not good enough. What I envision for this company, at least for Malaysia, is for the next 5 years, we look to have tested 1% of our nation. By 2030, the nation has probably 35 million population in Malaysia. So I would love to have tested 1% of the nation, which is 350,000 people by the end of 2030. So what I look at is the huge number of population. We're just getting started in Malaysia. With your help, with our support, we can get even more people tested, and of course, even more people to be balanced. Now, I want to show you this website. Okay, so this website is a live website in which you can, it's called zinzinotest.com. You can go, anyone can go there and have a look. If you can see here, we have every country in the world, the number of tests we have done, the average balance based on first test and second test. You can see Malaysia, we need to do better. We need to do a lot better if we are to improve the general health of the Malaysian people. So this is one thing I would like to show you. Another thing I would like to show you is the Vitas official website. A few interesting, go ahead and screenshot or Google this lab. If you know this lab, you know they are really one of the top, if not the top, fatty acid analytical labs in the world. There's one number I'd like to show you. Vita says that by the end of last year, they have done 2 million dry blood spot samples. Now, 2 million is all the tests that Vitas has done. Other than Zeno, they have other clients as well. For example, professors from University of Cambridge, King's College London, University of Oslo, Norway, professors from the University of Munich, Germany. They are all their clients. Out of the 2 million tests, or slightly over 2 million tests that Vitas have received over the last many years, Zinzino has sent the largest number of tests. Up until now, we have sent almost 1.6 million tests out of the 2 million tests that Vitas has been doing. So we are really proud of that. In Malaysia, we're talking about a blue ocean strategy, test-based nutrition. Some people may get a bit sensitive saying that this is a direct selling company, but actually in Malaysia, direct selling is professional in which more than 4 million Malaysians are involved as a customer or as a member. So we are really huge. So people are really receptive to the idea of direct selling, especially for nutrition that is test-based. So my verdict is that the market is wide open. We have a goal to achieve, which is 350,000 tests to be done in the next 5 years. And I would love to welcome all of you to be a part of that. Now, a few milestones I want to share with you is that we started as a company in 2005. We started by selling household goods, but we really pivoted and plunged into the market of test-based nutrition in the year 2012. So in 2012, we launched the balance concept and started to test our clients for omega-6 to 3 levels and then getting them to use the balance oil. In 2014, we acquired the manufacturing facilities called Bioactive Foods, who were producing these balance oils and all this technology for us. We acquired the company 100%, so it's part of ZZN right now. 2015 Q2, we have done 100,000 tests globally. Great milestone for us. In phase 2 globally, we have gotten a few significant certificates, including the Friend of Sea, in which it shows how we are really environmental friendly in terms of how we harvest omega-3. And then we are Informed Choice company. And then we upgraded to Informed Sport. Informed Sport and the German Cologne list is where we, professional sports person, they look at the list of supplements they're allowed to take, and they would choose ZZN as one of the supplements for them to reduce inflammation and so on and so forth. So 2021, ZZN Malaysia was launched. That's how we got started in Southeast Asia. In 2021, we also got our halal and kosher and Cologne list certificates. Feel free to share ZZN products and test in Malaysia. In July 2023, we reached the 1 million test milestone. Back in 2015, we got 100,000. And in 2023, we got to 1 million tests worldwide. All right. Now, this year, up to right now, we are 1.59 million tests live numbers. Now, there's one really interesting thing, especially for our friends from the medical industry, to read about. August 2025, the lead scientists, including Dr. Martina and Dr. Robertson, etc., they have published this peer-reviewed scientific publication, which we talk about we used 590 dry blood spot samples to publish this study in Lipids and Health and Disease, in which we can show how the balance of omega-3 and 6 can really help people overturn, some ailments or improve health. Ever since this paper was published, it was one of the fastest being downloaded in the medical community. Now, granted, I'm not a medical guy, so I can share these links. These links are all published in PMC. Doctors, pharmacists, you guys are the professional. Please go ahead and Google or look for this, this published report. As far as I was told, normally when people want to do clinical studies on general public, they would use samples of probably several hundred people or several thousands people as sample size. ZZN is one of the really few people in which we have such a large database, okay, to put into the studies to show. These are reports, published studies, and you can go and take a look. Now, November 2025, we have close to 1.6 million tests being done through betas. All right. Now, finally, I want to talk about the business opportunity in which if you are a practicing medical professional or have your own practice, this is a great opportunity to work with ZZN Malaysia so that it could possibly boost your, sales or your income, or to help your clients, your patients in your practice. Okay, I'm going to share another website in which now I want to get a bit more into dollars and cents. Okay, if you look into the ZZN website, ZZN.com, you're going to see for customers, there are many different kits. Okay, kits means there are different sets, right? Because we want to package together to give our customers a really good deal when they first signed up. For example, there's one kit on our website. It says balance oil mini kit with test. Now, this is a kit in which there are 2 bottles of balance oil. Okay, normally for me, that would be a 2 months consumption. And there's 1 balance test included in this kit as well. It costs 1,065 ringgit, including shipping. Right, this is one example. I'm going to take 2 of the kits as an example. The second pack, I would say it's a smaller kit. It's called Balance Oil Mini Kit. It costs 420 ringgit, including shipping. So what it has is just the 2 bottles of balance oil without the test. Now, I'm not going to bog you down with how to calculate incentives and all. That's why I made this simple calculator. Let's say in your business, pharmacy or clinic, if you are able to sell, let's say 10 of these kits, all right, this 1,000 ringgit kit. If you're able to sell these 10 kits in a month, so how much of revenue are we looking at? The calculator just tells you that you have sold 10,000 ringgit of sales. What is your earnings for that month? It's going to be 1,065. If you take this link, feel free to click around how to calculate all this. Now, if you don't want to learn how to calculate, just want to know what the dollars and cents are, this is how, right? For example, if I were able to sell 25, let's see. If it is 25, your sales is 26,000 and your total earnings from Cincino, including incentives, it's going to be 6,325, okay? So here you see you have cash bonus of how much, you see, and then you have some extra incentives being given by the company to you. See here, monthly customer bonus, 500 ringgit here, and then team commissions, 250, customer acquisition bonus, 250. Okay, again, I'm not going to go into details. Now, I'm going to share with everyone, there are many examples, especially in Europe, in which I have talked to some European doctors from Germany or Spain, or there's one from Greece as well, in which they shared with us in their clinics, if they train their nurses to share these products with potential clients, they tend to get a lot of clients who would buy directly from the company. Now, there are a few ways you can do this in your clinics or in your pharmacies. There's one partner in Malaysia. He is a supplier of diagnostic equipment to doctors. So what he would do is consign these tests and balance oil to the doctors to put in their clinics for sale. This is one way. But granted, this is quite capital intensive because if you need to consign a lot of tests and a lot of oils to all your doctors, then probably a bit capital intensive. But if you're doing it for yourself, then probably you join as a partner, you join with a pack, say 5 to 10 tests or a number of oils, then you can put those oils in your office, in your clinics, in your pharmacy to sell and reorder. There are other ways as well. In Europe, they will have the clients or patients scan a QR code and order directly from the company. Now, granted, that QR code has to be a customized QR code that ties to your Zincino account. In that way, when customers, they go and order and go and pay for their test, pay for the balance oil, the credit goes directly to you, to your clinic, because you are a partner with Zincino. They consistently sell at least 100 or 200 kits every month. If you sell 100 kits a month, what kind of earnings are you looking at? You are looking at an upwards of 30+% ROI on what you are selling. So if you were able to sell 100 kits a month, that's a revenue of 106,000. Your total earnings, including your cash bonus and monthly customer bonus, incentives, etc., is going to go upwards of 36,000. All right. There are, however, even I've seen one German lady doctor who consistently sells 1,000 kits a month because we can see from her numbers. Okay. I mean, she has a number of clinics. So add up together, she'll have more than 1,000 kits, right? Let's say if we really look into 1,000 kits, that's very substantial income just from distributing balance oil and balance test alone. But let's look more logical numbers. I mean, at least for a start, for Malaysia, if we are able to sell 100 kits every single month, your income from ZZN, including incentives, gonna go upwards of 40,000. All right. Now, a few more reasons why ZZN is really a viable business for you, for your pharmacy, for your business, is because we offer multiple ways to earn as a partner. I'm not going to bog you down with all the details of calculation, but I can tell you there are really a lot of incentives, including even car incentives, we call Z car, and phone incentives. I'm talking about building a business without getting into the nitty-gritty of direct selling, working. We're not even getting into this. We are only talking about retailing customer kits in your business. So what they would do, I would imagine, is some of them, okay, you work with your senior partner, the partner who has introduced you to the business. You work with them to come up with a link or a QR code. You can print a few QR code, put it as a catalog, put in your pharmacy, or make it a standee, something like this, in which a customer can scan this QR code and go into it. Let me show you what will happen when they scan one of these codes. I prepared one or two QR code links. So what's going to happen is when the customer, they go and scan this link, they will go straight to ZZN's website with your referral information. Now, I simply go and pick someone. This partner is called Mary Lopez. When they scan, they're going to see who they are buying from. You may not want to put your own full name here. You may want to put your clinic name or something like that. The customer is going to see the shopping cart is already filled with how many balanced oils, how many tests, how much is it, okay, including shipping, how much. All the customer need to do is to fill in their own mailing information. After they fill in their mailing information, mobile phone, email, then going to go for payment. They will input their own payment information. Don't need your nurse or your pharmacist to do this. Let the customers do it themselves because this is P&C, right? So in the end, all we need to do is guide them to review and confirm the order, complete the purchase. We will mail the order to the customer, another link with mini kit without test. This is only just 2 bottles of balanced oil without test. This is again someone, some partner from some corner of the world. So same case. So you have multiple QR code. The senior partners will work with you to prepare this QR code, get it printed, put on a standee in your office, in your business, so the customers can simply go and scan, and all these credits will go into your partner account. Okay, it will go as into a partner account. But what do you need to do before you have all this? First of all, you need to make the decision to join ZZN as a partner. Okay, choose one of the partner kits in which you get some tests and get some oils as rolling stock in your business. Then you can set up an auto order because you need to have this to earn incentives and commissions. You can work with your senior partner to prepare sales tools and get a QR code that you can put at your shop. All right, that's pretty much it. But before I end this session, I'd like to share some info that might be able to help you. The office for ZZN Malaysia is located in Jaya 1 PJ. You can look it up on Google Maps as well. All these are public info. Business hours for my support staff is Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday, Sunday, and public holidays will be closed, but sometimes open for internal training. For instance, every Saturday morning from 10 to 12, we have product trainings for our partners. So this is the usual business hours. So if you have any questions you want to ask the support team, these are the support emails, and you can also call. You can also call the office if you need help. This is the office phone. And what about your clients or your patients who has done the balance test? This is what we can do. They can stick a stamp on the seal balance test and send it to our office in Malaysia. Every Friday, our support staff will group all the balance tests that she has collected, and then she will courier this balance test to Vitas in Norway. That's what she will do every single Friday, right? So the cutoff will be Thursday. You can come to our office. There's some special envelope, drop off box come to the office, hand it to our support staff, or just drop the balance test into the box. Our support staff will pack and mail it to all your clients. I would like to thank everyone, especially Dr. Abraham, for spending time on a Sunday to share with us so much info. I hope the information we have prepared for you is sufficient to help you in your business. I want to thank you all for your time. See you very soon.